Hello and a warm welcome back to Tungsten Tales and Darts Daily. Once again, we're here today to explain a new rule which has been imposed by the PDC for 2025, which will make a huge difference on the European Tour and the television events for 2025. There's been a lot of fuss already on social media about the new rules imposed and what could this mean going forward for many of the players outside of the top 16 and even outside of the top 32. So I'm here to explain today what that rule is and how it's going to make changes to the PDC. There are a number of other rules that have been imposed with a more positive reaction by the Professional Darts Corporation. So I'll be taking through you them as well and having a quick look at the Order of Merit, the main Order of Merit, and of course the Pro Tour Order of Merit, so we can see what those competitions like the World Grand Prix, the World Match Play, and those European tours may look like in 2025. So we have a quick look at this statement, which was released by the PDC yesterday, outlining the rules for 2025. I'll just read some excerpts of the statement for you. In the 2025 PDC Order of Merit rules have now been confirmed and include seeding amendments for the World Grand Prix and European Tour. So we'll start with the World Grand Prix. Seedings for that will increase to 16 players. The World Grand Prix has always been a 32-player tournament with the top 8 players from the main Order of Merit in seeded positions. This, of course, meant those ranked from 9 to 16 could draw absolutely anybody. So you could have the number 9 or 10 in the world facing the world number 1 or 2. Instead, it will now be the top 16 players will all be seeded and they will face a player from the Pro Tour Order of Merit, the top 16 on the 1-year Pro Tour Order of Merit, which of course just the Pro Tour events. And they will also gain entry into the World Grand Prix as per usual. So just a slight change for Leicester this year. 16 players seeded in the field instead of 8. Have a quick look elsewhere, slightly further down. From 2025, players inside the top 64, the PDC Order of Merit, will not be permitted to enter the Development Tour or the Women's Series events. Obviously, no women currently in the top 64 or in probably the 1-2-8, but with Fallon Sherrick possibly in tournaments down the line, the likes of the Grand Slam of Darts, the World Championship, of course. The same goes for Noah Lynn van Leeuwen, Bo Greaves as well. There is a possibility that could be done. A great change, in my opinion. I think in most darts fans' opinions surrounding the Development Tour, it's always been the top 32. Anybody under the age of 25 inside the top 32 hasn't been able to compete on the Development Tour. A real positive that's now been increased to the top 64, leaving those players free to compete on the Pro Tour and obviously in those European Tour qualifiers. So hopefully a few less date clashes for those players. And I've got to say, if they're in the top 64 of the PDC Order of Merit, they're developed players already. They're already at that stage where they're competing against the world best. They don't need to be competing against the players vying for the spots in the 1-2-8. So we now move to the main change, which has been put in for 2025, and that is a big change for the European Tour. So European Tour events will now see 16 seeds from the PDC Order of Merit exempt to the last 32, which is the second round in each tournament, with the first round seeing 16 Pro Tour Order of Merit qualifiers drawn against 16 other qualifiers. So just to set this out for you, each European Tour event contains 48 players. 16 of those will enter in the second round. They are the seeded players. And as was introduced last year, this means the top 16 in the PDC Order of Merit will be automatically qualified for every single European Tour event. Now, the reaction online, as we'll get to in a minute, has been quite dramatic over this. It means that everyone in the top 16 will be in every European Tour tournament, and therefore, should they win their second round game, will get that ranking money, whereas anybody outside the top 16 they'll have to fight to be in that tournament, whether it's qualifying through that Pro Tour Order of Merit or coming through the various qualification routes, the PDC Tour Card Holder qualifiers, or the local qualifiers as well. So the first round will be comprised of the 16 Pro Tour Order of Merit qualifiers. The Pro Tour Order of Merit is a 1-year rolling Order of Merit. So there is a lot more change on that, although at the top of there, you do tend to see the players just outside that top 16 in the world that have been performing on the likes of the Pro Tours and the European Tours over the last 12 months, and then 16 other qualifiers. So 8, I would imagine, or possibly 12 coming through the Tour Card Holder qualifiers, and the rest made up via local qualifiers over in Germany. Obviously, it's a particularly strong field, whereas you look at some of the other tournaments. The Belgian is obviously a fairly strong tournament. Somewhere like the Hungarian Darts Masters is usually maybe a slightly weaker field of local qualifiers. So there will pretty much be 32 fixed qualifiers, fixed entrants into these European Tour events, which in many people's views, as we'll come to see now, is not an ideal circumstance for these European Tour events. So as we scroll through the wonderful place that is Twitter, you can see here the latest actions by the PDC. Rule changes reek of one thing to me: fear of not being able to create new marketable cash cows, so they're clinging on to their old ones. Well, those top 8 players, those top 10 players, the players that are in those Premier League spots, they're going to be in every single European Tour event. Of course, you want to sell tickets for those events. Of course, you want the best names in there, but they've got to earn their place in there. And in my opinion, it doesn't seem like that's being there. They're being gifted those spots. As we scroll down a little bit further, how can anyone take the PDC seriously with these new rules for the European Tour? What a disgrace. These kind of rules make the tour unfair. It will become harder and harder to break into the top 16, and even harder to save your tour card. Obviously, 2-year tour cards which were decided at Q School just last week. This is the main gripe for myself as well. The top 16 is becoming a bit of a closed shop in the PDC. They're already getting entries into the likes of the World Masters, of course. They're in the World Grand Prix automatically. They'll be in the World Match Play automatically. They'll be seeded for the World Championship. There are so many tournaments, and now including those 13 European Tour events, where the top 16 are already there. All they've got to do is go there and, in some cases, turn up to pick up their money. On the European Tour, they will have to win their first game. Whereas players outside of that top 16, they've got to go and win qualifying matches, possibly 3-4 matches before they're in a position to actually pick up any ranking money. So I think the gap between the top 16 and possibly even the top 32 is going to increase, and it's going to be very difficult for players, even if they're playing really, really good stuff, to actually break into that top 16. We'll have a quick look at the Order of Merit, how it currently stands, with Luke Humphreys at the top of that, of course, £700,000 clear of second placed Luke Littler. Also in that top 10, obviously Marco van Goen at number 3. Stephen Bunting has broken into the top 5 of the world. And as you scroll slightly towards the end with the likes of Danny Noppert, Gary Anderson, James Wade and Josh Rock in the top 16, they're all in a very healthy position currently to be in all of those events. Michael Smith obviously on the same there, £405,000 for the last 2 years as Josh Rock. I'm sure that'll be with the ranking events coming up, the likes of the World Masters, those first Pro Tours will create a clean divide there. But there'll be all the players that will be at the moment in every single event. That will obviously change as the season evolves. I expect some of these names just outside the likes of Dimitri Vandenberg, your Ryan Searles. They're not far short, but as you scroll back towards the top 32, these players are going to find it quite difficult, in my opinion, to break back in, especially if they're not making the majority of these European Tour events. Players that have been performing really well recently: Scott Williams, Martin Lukman, who was a Grand Slam finalist just a number of months ago. Cameron Menzies has been playing really well. Callum Ridd's a quarter-finalist at the World Darts Championships. Kevin Dukes, of course, made the last 16 as well. They're all players that are outside the top 32 at the moment, and it's going to be a tough enough job to break into the top 32, never mind the top 16. So difficult to see how these rules are going to benefit darts as a whole and the players that have just got on the tour from PDC School and the players that are chasing the top 32, looking to move up in the world of darts. So yeah, not some great reaction to the newest PDC rule, but let us know what you think in the comments below, whether you think this rule should stand or whether they think there may be some changes that have to be introduced to make it a bit more of a leveled landscape. Thank you very much for watching Darts Daily once again, and we'll see you tomorrow for more darts content.